If you'd like to exchange your Magic Online cards for event tickets while logged in on Magic Online, you can do so by trading MTGO Academy's official bot, Academy Buy Bot. You can find it in the Magic Online trading area or add it to your buddy list.
Hello again, everyone. This is Jason Moore here with MTGO Academy, and we are wrapping up the matches played for this session of Azorius Kitty versus Pauper Domain. Now, normally here I would have a lot of conclusive feedback and results on the matchup overall, talking about cards that really have a high impact and how the games are tending to play out. But due to the events that occurred in the matches, I think we're going to have to withhold or suspend our judgment on the matchup overall because we didn't get a lot of conclusive evidence, and I think it would be better suited for us to come back later perhaps to do this matchup or just familiarize ourselves with the decks a little better, because there were some errors on both sides of the table which made things definitely interesting. But I think for you guys to get better info, we might just need to pilot the decks a little better. Now, I will make some general statements about the matchup based on what we saw. Very, very grindy. A very grindy matchup. You saw it's quite back and forth actually, with one player being up on cards and having a good board state, the other player being up on cards and having a good board state. So this is one of those matchups where every single resource matters, including your life total, including your board state, knowing when you want to try for something like a double block, or when you need to 2-for-1 yourself, try to 2-for-1 the opponent. This thing goes back and forth like nobody's business. Now we're looking at the Pauper Domain deck on Chris's side of the table, and one thing you can see that is a little unique about his deck is he's not playing Squadron Hawk or Rancor, which is also sometimes quite popular in these kind of decks. And I think that the Squadron Hawks would have been a pretty big issue for us. It would have prompted us to keep in things like Piracy Charm and Serrated Arrows, and it's just another card advantage source that his deck can play, and it works decently well with Brainstorm. What Chris has instead is he's got 4 copies of Scred because he's playing the snow-covered lands, and he's also got some other things like Compulsive Research, Pit Keeper, Leaf Crown Dryad to add to his amount of value that he's generating, and that value is pretty ridiculous. There were a lot of games where Chris was drawing more cards than we were, and that's basically off the back of Nylea's Presence, which draws a card when it comes into play, and Abundant Growth, which does the same thing. And then he was able to bounce those with Core Skyfisher quite a bit. So you can see both of these decks are essentially Core Skyfisher decks, and they're generating so much value off of this card. This is a really great card in the format, probably one of the best creatures that exists. Now, in terms of cards that were really high impact for Chris against us, I think Core Skyfisher is the first one. Core Skyfisher essentially flew over all of our ground guys. It fights through Muldrifter. It generates so much value. And then when we're playing things like Serrated Arrows, he actually has the ability to rebuy targets that have -1/-1 counters on them and then play them again, and they're back to normal. So they're back at full strength, and the Serrated Arrows is mitigated by that. Another huge card for him was Kasali Pridemage. This card was a big problem for us because it could blow up our Journey to Nowheres. It could blow up Serrated Arrows. To a lesser extent, Reality Acid, but it is important that he can keep us from recurring those Reality Acids. So this card was a monster. The Exalted was not so relevant, but in certain cases, yes, it is relevant to have the Exalted come through. Every bit of damage counts, especially when you're playing Tribal Flames. Now, the larger creatures, MTGO Rioters, yes, it is definitely relevant. And he's only playing 2. I think some of the other lists play more than that. This card is one of his biggest creatures along with Aura Gnarlid, but unfortunately the Aura Gnarlid did not show up in any of these matchups, which was kind of interesting, I think. So I think those were important cards. Unearth was moderate because we weren't always destroying or removing creatures and sending them to the graveyard. So sometimes he was just cycling this card. So again, conclusive results is really hard to say. But this matchup does seem very back and forth, and this seems like a crazy matchup, I gotta say. It felt very intense when we were playing. So out of his sideboard, the cards that we saw him bring in included Doomblade, which I was not expecting him to bring in. But Doomblade does hit all of our creatures, I believe. So he's able to take out a Dreamstalker if he needs to. But also, our deck is built around gaining value out of bouncing all these creatures. So he may have only brought in one, he may have brought in both. And he certainly brought in Pyroblast, because we saw that. And this is his strongest card against us. It can counter Muldrifter, it can counter Reality Acid, it can counter Dreamstalker, and I mean any blue spell. So that's very important. If we're hinging our plays upon resolving some kind of blue creature, then this can throw a wrench in the works. I'll go ahead and talk to Chris and ask him how he boarded specifically, and we'll put that in the written portion for you guys. So that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I do apologize to everyone if you felt disappointed by some of the things that happened during the matches, but I'll do my best to play better in the future, as well as familiarize myself with the complicated decks beforehand. I didn't get much of a chance to get in some hours with the Azorius Kitty deck. So I thank you guys very much for watching. Please leave any comments that you have, and we're probably going to bring this style of article back for at least one or two other iterations. And yeah, I really would appreciate any feedback you have, and thank you guys very much for watching. This is Jason Moore here with MTGO Academy signing